We're conducting another market watch for 5 wide receivers for Dynasty Fantasy Football. We're looking at the player values, we're looking at the trends, we're looking at the advanced metrics and everything else to see whether you want to buy, sell, hold, burn on fire any of these players for Dynasty Fantasy Football. But before we do all that, you need to click that subscribe button right now. We're going hard in the paint. Look at these players this offseason, whether it's rookie camp, OTAs, mini camp, looking at what's going on behind the scenes, covering the player values, covering the advanced metrics. We're helping you build your Dynasty teams. Click that button. Stop missing out because you're getting critical information to help build your teams. And we're going to talk about our first wide receiver today, and it's going to be DJ Moore. Wide receiver 20 per ADP, being drafted as like the 35th, 36th player off the board per ADP. Interesting situation right now because we have Caleb Williams. Last year averaged 8.1 targets per game and almost a 30% target share. No one's really talking that up because that's top tier. Pushing a 30% target share is elite among wide receivers. He's up there in the target share category and getting 90 air yards a game. So we're pushing 80 air yards a game. However, a 43.2% share of the Bears' air yards last year. So imagine if the ball was flowing, he would have been well over 100. He would have been more productive. He would have been 20 plus points per game last year and would have been more consistent when you look at the scoring because he had 6 wide receiver 1 weeks last year. And when he went off, he went off. So if Caleb Williams hits, he hits. If Caleb Williams doesn't, or if he has a rookie ramp up, then he may not hit for you this season. But again, with what the offense looked like, 8 targets a game, 43% share of the air yards, it looks like he's pretty safe. Can it get much worse? I mean, it could always get much worse, but the offense was pretty stagnant. It was pretty up and down. And then you look at his production, even in his down games, he was in double-digit PPR fantasy scoring. And we know he's gelling there with the team. He's gelling with Caleb Williams. We're seeing that already in practices. We covered that. He's already made some nice grabs. He's going to be on the field. He's electric. 1,300 yards last year, 8 touchdowns. The market's not worried about him. You're looking over here at his chart. You're watching ADP from week to week, month to month here over at DynastyLeagueFootball.com. It's staying roughly the same spot. He's not really dropping. We got a little bit of dip here in May, June area, but still, it's holding steady. It's holding steady. So DJ Moore, it's whether or not you want to buy into Caleb Williams and the Bears, or if you're out. And if you're in, you're in. You're out, you're out. Is he liquid right now? He's probably pretty liquid. He's one of those wide receivers. He's around wide receiver 20 price range. He's valued as a wide receiver too. So he's pretty liquid. So if you want to get the deal done, it's possible. So I'm buying in. I'm trying not to overpay. I'm trying to get down on the low. If not, I'm pivoting to another wide receiver in this range. As you see, as we get through this wide receiver video, there's a lot of wide receivers going in this range. And when we look at the next one, George Pickens, similar ADP, about the same, wide receiver 21 in ADP. So pretty much the same thing. 6.6 targets per game, 22.8% target share. So a lower target share, but almost 40% share of the air yards, 89 air yards per game. 95% route participation rate, so he was on the field a lot. We're also seeing his ADP jump a bit. You're seeing that right now. We got Russell Wilson, we got Justin Fields. If Russ Wilson's the starter and he's clicking, I imagine he's going to funnel deep balls to George Pickens. He funneled deep balls to Courtland Sutton. He likes to push it deep. He wants to cook. He's got a little bit of ego to him. And when you're watching him on the field at practice over at Steelers camp right now, he is firing the ball as hard as he can on every single throw. He is putting everything he has into it right now, trying to develop. He is really showing off what he can do. He wants to be the starter. Really bad for this team. He sees Justin Fields over his shoulder. He's doing whatever he can to be the starter. Go look at those clips. You'll see what I'm talking about. I mentioned that in my most recent Russell Wilson video, that you're just seeing that out of him. Every ball he's throwing has a little bit of mustard to it. George Pickens has made some plays in camp already. We're talking mini camp and OTAs. Caught some good balls. I imagine either quarterback on the field, they're going to be tossing dimes to him. Deep ball city. I look for his air yards to increase. I look for the target share to be around the same. Maybe even more. Deontay Johnson's gone. I look for the air yards to increase. I look for the ADOT to jump up a little bit. I look for the targets downfield to be a little bit more accurate. And he was very spiky last year. And he's going to be spiky even with better quarterback play because that's just really his game. But I look for him to be more productive, at least has a better opportunity for that. And that's what the market's saying. So if you're buying into George Pickens, now might be the time because as we get into training camp, and as we get a better feel of this quarterback situation, I think the market's going to go up for him. One thing I'm good at is guessing the market. And I think when we get to training camp, when we see the consensus from all the sites talking fantasy football, once we get a good feel of what's going on, from what I'm seeing from minicamp and everything, once these two quarterbacks get established on who's the starter, which is probably going to be Russell Wilson, we're going to get a good feel on that. And the market's going to be like, hey, George Pickens, he's going to get deep balls. We saw that. Russ wants to push it downfield. George Pickens, let's buy in on that. And you're probably going to be able to sell, or it's going to be more expensive to buy. So if you're interested in George Pickens, you might want to do it now. Now we're looking at Zay Flowers, wide receiver 22, ADP roughly the same, 36th player off the board, 7 targets a game almost, 24% target share. Very solid for a rookie, but only 56 air yards a game, 57 if you want to round up. 23.4% share of the air yards, but we ran on 92.1% of the routes, 8.4 ADOT. That low ADOT's not going to get it done. We're going to need to be pushing double-digit targets for that to happen. However, we got the speed to get a higher ADOT. That could possibly happen, and you look at what he did last year. We have a lot of games in double-digit fantasy scoring. Pretty safe. We're going into year 2. We're a first-round wide receiver. We flashed as a rookie. 4 wide receiver 1 weeks last year, multiple wide receiver 2 weeks, a lot of double-digit PPR fantasy performances, holding steady in ADP. That's another indicator. ADP's not taking a dump on him. Less than 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns. Feels like a very safe, stable asset. I don't really see him being a Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase level prospect ever in Dynasty, but I do see him giving you leveled out production, maybe even better than what we saw last year, 1,000-yard seasons with some high-end years in the future and being stable with his team. They're going to have to lean more on the pass. However, they showed their hand. They want to run the ball a lot because they picked up Derrick Henry. They're going to use him till the wheels fall off, but Zay Flowers is always going to be that outlet. The Ravens are always going to be in weird game scripts. You can't count on the Ravens passing game from week to week. That's just going to be a hard thing to count on. He's going to be very spiky from here on out, maybe forever with this team, because this is just how the team is. This is just how this team's going to be. But overall, he's going to hold value per ADP. His production's going to be spiky, but when you look back at it, it ain't going to be too bad, about 13 points per game. The spike weeks are going to win you weeks. Probably really good for best ball, but also a good floor for starting lineups. Even those wide receiver plus 3 weeks, though, double-digit fantasy performances. When you see that in your lineup, it's not killing you. It's not hurting you. Only a few games where he's in single digits. He's not killing you when he busts. He can win you weeks. Even though you're seeing him in a slower-paced offense here, he's a very stable asset. That's probably about the most I can say right here. He's a very stable wide receiver who's also could be cheaper on the market than wide receiver 22. You can probably catch him at a better discount than that. Kick the tires if you're interested. See what comes back at you. Deebo Samuel. He's 28 years old. The thing about this, he should really be just on contending teams. Teams with a purpose. Teams that think they can go deep into the playoffs. Outside of that, it's fate. Teams that think they can win money this year should have Deebo Samuel. If you don't think you can win money this year, you need to get rid of him. Take the haircut. Get out from under him just in case, because he's 28. Before you're competing, before you think you can win money, he's in his 30s, and it'll be done. It'll be done. So might as well take the haircut and start building. He is holding value on ADP. He is getting you good production. The best time to sell will be in season because he'll be giving you that production after a couple good games. See if you can unload. Right now, people just look at the numbers. They look at the age and they kind of back off a little bit. However, he's coming off the board in ADP at a good price tag here. If you're built to win now, he's great. He's great to have. especially in that 1 to 2 year window. If your team's built for that, most times you're making a championship run, you're built for a 1 to 2 year window, but also there's a lot of teams that's just stacked. That's just stacked that I've seen. Someone's going to drop one of those lineups in the comments. But if you're naturally built for a championship run, usually that's a small window. A Deebo Samuel can get you over the hump. Can't be super expensive off the market, considering not many people are going to be clamoring for a 28-year-old wide receiver. So I just sold you to you as a buy and a sell because that's my job. That's my job because he's not a bad player. He's a very good player who can be productive. In the right situation, he could be great for you. But in the wrong situation for your team, he could be a horrible asset. But we're getting targets, 6.2 per game. The ADA is super low, which makes him not consistent, but he's consistent because he's getting rushing production and rushing touchdowns. How much longer can that happen? His contract says might not be too much longer in San Francisco. Can we get used the same way somewhere else? A lot of teams try to get the next Deebo Samuel. It never works out. It never comes out the same. There's only one Deebo Samuel. That being said, you only got so much longer, but if you're competing, this might be a wide receiver you want to go after because you might be able to catch him at a cheap price. T. Higgins is playing this year. T. Higgins is going to be on the field. Joe Burrow said he was going to connect with T. Higgins over this off period right before training camp. They were going to throw the ball around and stuff. He said that in a recent press conference. Wide receiver 24 in ADP, ADP 40. That's going to go up a little bit because now people can visualize him on the field being productive. When he's healthy on the field, he can give you those splash weeks. Even with the injuries, even with the down performances, even with him playing through injury last year and those low performances, the market's still holding steady with him. Even with the contract negotiations, the contract fears, the market's still holding steady. It's not taking a dump. He's going to go back up in value. The time to buy is over. People are going to want him for this year on their team. They're going to hold tight. If someone's going to sell, they're going to sell pretty soon. They're going to try and catch that bag. That's what the market's going to say. So the time to buy is over. The time to sell, maybe now, if people care. If people care, but probably more right before the season, if not in season during a run of good games. That's the time to sell. Right now is an okay time and people care about the news. People on the internet will say, hey, news happens, sell. But that's not always the facts. That's not always the facts. Twitter's not really going crazy about this. It's kind of quiet. And I don't think people really got their ears to the ground right now in June, right before Father's Day. That being said, pay attention. Kick the tires. It might make him a little bit more liquid on the market. That's the thing. It might make him a little bit more liquid because people are paying attention to him. People are seeing what's up with him. They're going to go back, look at the stats. Another reason why is people don't really think about how it was like trying to start him in game last year or remember that, or they go back and look at the stats from last year and they're like, I don't want to buy, I don't want to do this. There's a stalemate in the market, or people trying to dump, people trying to pump. That being said, always kick the tires when there's news to see what happens. I think liquidity will rise up. I think the price will really go up, but people are more likely to deal him or deal for him right before the season when they feel like they got that money in their hands with him on the field with the potential to give them fantasy points right before the season when things are feeling very good. But those are 5 wide receivers we are looking at today. We're looking at the market. We're talking about the market. Buy, sell, hold, trade, set on fire, kill, burn, marry, have sex with, whatever. We're talking about these players every single day. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next video.